right, it's time for my weekly recap video of the 2026 quarterback class. Now, what I find interesting about this series is as the Browns season goes on, we start to be more and more clear about what the Browns draft position is likely to look like. And that means the scope of the guys that we talk about goes from being a wide view at the beginning of the year, where we're talking about guys who could potentially be in the second or third round, to narrowing in to where we think the Browns will be selecting. Now, let's first have that conversation. Where will the Browns be selecting? Now, when I had this conversation a month ago, I thought it was in a bit more of a controversial place than it is now. It feels like everybody has accepted where the Browns are instead of fighting it. I think the Browns are highly likely to get a top 5 pick. If we're looking at odds right now, the Browns have a 24.1% chance to earn the number 1 pick, according to ESPN FPI. That is the second highest odds in the NFL, only second to the Tennessee Titans. Now, it's important to remember that the Cleveland Browns play the Tennessee Titans. So if the Browns were to lose to the Tennessee Titans and not win a game in between now and that Titans game, they would jump the Tennessee Titans in those odds to get the number 1 overall pick and in an actual selection of who gets the number 1 overall pick. So the Browns kind of control their own draft destiny in a way. If we're looking at other indicators of where the Browns might be selecting, this nice little fancy chart here gives you the percentage. This is still based off of ESPN FPI Football Power Index. Just from Seth Walder, who posted this chart. Right now, the Cleveland Browns, again, 24.4% chance of getting the top pick in the draft. 83.8% chance, 83.3% chance of getting a top 5 pick. And the Cleveland Browns are all but certain to get a top 10 pick in this draft. So the Browns control their own fate draft-wise, with the Tennessee Titans as the only team ahead of them. And if you're the Cleveland Browns and a team has to land in front of you, the Tennessee Titans are absolutely the preferred team to land in front of you, because that is not a team that is likely to take a quarterback with that selection. That is a team that is just took a quarterback 1 overall and more likely to be willing to trade or to select a premium player at that position. So if you're the Browns, you can make a move here. Now, I have had some questions when we talk about the Browns draft position of, hey, what's stopping the Jets from jumping the Cleveland Browns? And what's stopping the Jets from jumping the Cleveland Browns is the Cleveland Browns. So let's say the Jets want to jump Tennessee, right? And the Tennessee Titans know that the Browns want a specific quarterback, right? Let's say that matters to the Cleveland Browns. Let's say only like one of the guys, all right? And the Browns want a specific quarterback. So the Titans are going to get that offer from the Jets, and they're going to call the Browns and say, hey, this is what the Jets are offering. What are you willing to offer? Now, the Browns won't have to offer as much as the Jets, because the Browns can play 2 pieces of leverage against the Titans. One, the Cleveland Browns have the number 2 pick. The Titans have the number 1 pick, which means the Tennessee Titans can trade with the Cleveland Browns and still guarantee that they get exactly who they want with the number 2 pick, right? All it takes is, hey, who are you taking? This is who we want. Cool, let's swap, right? It's a simple swap. So the Titans will be losing nothing by trading with the Browns. If the Titans trade with the Jets, who maybe have the 3rd pick, right now they have, 70% odds to be in the top 5, so 30% odds to be out the top 5. You know, the Jets could be picking 5th, 4th, or whatever, as long as the Browns picks ahead of them. The Titans have to worry about, hey, if the Jets jump the Browns and we go to 3 and the Browns don't have the quarterback that they want on the board, one, the Browns are very likely at that point to trade back, which means somebody can hop us for the guy that we want. And that could be expensive, right? You might have a super high grade on Arvell Reese, but not as high of a grade on Ruben Bain. You might have an identical grade on both. It's really going to be determined on how they feel about these players at the end of the day. But we're looking at the Browns' odds. They look like they're going to be picking in the top 5. 83% chance that they're picking in the top 5. So what that means as far as the quarterbacks we're going to talk about, we're no longer talking about late first round guys. We're no longer talking about second round guys. We're only talking about the guys who could be in that conversation for a top 5 pick. Now, there are certain guys who we thought would be in that conversation that are not in that conversation. The main guy that I'm going to spend some time talking about is Lenore Sellers, who, again, at the beginning of the season, we were hopeful that he could be in this conversation, but has played his way out of that conversation. And honestly, I wouldn't be interested in Lenore Sellers for quite some time unless he demonstrates that he has fixed some of the big issues with his game. I think he's going to come out in 2027, not this year. And I think I'm completely fine with that. He should go to Miami or get a gap year, whatever he needs to do, because Lenore's has horrible pocket habits and he makes questionable decisions in big time moments of the game. And that makes me flat out uncomfortable with him. There was a lot of promise there, great athlete, good arm, good talent there. Thought he really started to put it together in 2024. But 2025 has been such a regression that I think teams are going to be a little uncomfortable with him at that high of a selection. Which brings us to the big 3 of this draft conversation. Fernando Mendoza, who I think is, between everybody I've brought in to talk about the draft, has been the consensus one guy in this class. And then there is Dante Moore and Ty Simpson. Now, everybody seems to be pretty sure that Simpson and Mendoza are going to be coming out of this year's draft class. The guy that there's been a question mark with is Dante Moore. Some people are adamant that he won't be coming out this year. Here's what I'll say. I'll believe it when I see it. And the reason I'm in believe it when I see it mode is simple. He is projected to be a top 5 pick this year. You don't usually turn down the draft when you're projected to be a top 5 pick. I know people will yell at me, well, Quincy, NIL money's important, and NIL has money. One, NIL money is a 1-year deal. It's not a long-term road to, financial stability. It's just a 1-year cash grab deal, right? And the terms of these deals can be rather nebulous. NFL top 5 money. The NIL deals cannot compete with NFL top 5 money. Let me look up the NFL draft pay scale. But yeah, it's not going to be able to compete with the top 5 pick. Long-term money-wise, short-term money-wise, if you have the opportunity to be a top 5 pick, you're probably going to take it, right? Because a top 5 pick gets anywhere from, $9 million to $8 million? We're talking about total lengths of contracts, $50 million. And this isn't even including a 5th-year extension that will be put at the rate of the players in your position group. So we're talking about just guaranteed money, $50 million for going number 1 overall, all the way to about like 42 once they adjusted to the new salary cap of going number 5 overall. NIL don't got a bag that deep. And they not offering people $42 million to stay in college. So one, if you think the NIL is going to be able to compete with that, it's not. And if you're somebody like Dante Moore who thinks that you're going to be good enough to get an extension in the NFL, then NIL really can't compete with that, because then you're talking about, getting to that 5th-year extension. And I don't know what the 5th-year extension is now. Let me look it up. Quarterback 5th-year extension. 2025. So 5th-year options for a quarterback, if you want to take one, has to be at like $30 million. Like Trevor Lawrence's 5th-year option he took in 2024, and it was 25. So yeah, it's got to be close to like $30 million now. So I mean, add another 30 to going in the top 5. We're talking about $70 million almost. NIL is not competing with that kind of money. NIL has no way to compete with that kind of money. 1 year of NIL million money is not worth missing out on being a top 5 pick. It's a lot of money. It's an opportunity to be a face of a franchise, and say what you want about going to a bad team. But if you want the best chance to develop, your draft position matters. And the higher in the draft order you can be, the more guaranteed you are to get the opportunities you need as a quarterback to develop. You're going to get the reps, the plays that you need to develop. If you're a 5th-round pick, you're not going to get a lot of that. If you're a 3rd-round pick, not going to get a lot of that. Not going to get a lot of time. You're a early 1st-round pick, you get 4 or 5 years of development because a team invested that much into you. That is a hard thing to pass up. And people are just talking to me as if Dante Morris is going to pass that up like it's easy. And that's why I have to call a little bullshit on it. Like, I'm sorry. Just got to call a little bullshit on that, because what do you mean it's just going to be easy for him to say no? He ain't never been in this position before. It's one thing if you Andrew Luck and you've been like rumored to be this kind of a pick for a long time and you say, nah, I'm good till next year. But Dante Moore ain't never been sniffing no top 5 conversation until today. And I thought he played really well in his last game. He's been playing some good football as of late. He's like 27 of 30 in his last game. He keeps playing like this, he's going to be a top 5 pick. And he might even be the number 1 pick, because the one thing about Dante Moore that does separate him from Mendoza, and especially Ty Simpson, is his age, right? Mendoza has a little bit of an edge over Dante Moore because Mendoza is 6'5", 230. He has that prototypical size. And Mendoza has a large positive body of work. I know the stats weren't amazing at Cal, but the tape is pretty impressive at Cal for Fernando Mendoza. So he has multiple years of work. He played as a freshman, right? A lot of years on tape. There's more of there's less of a mystery of who Fernando Mendoza is, right? And, he's on the number 2 team of the country, depending on how his playoff run, his postseason run goes. He's probably going to be the consensus 1 guy in this class. Then you have Ty Simpson and Dante Moore. Now, if Dante Moore doesn't come out, Ty Simpson's number 2, and you feel good about that. But if Dante Moore comes out, then I think Dante Moore becomes the number 2 guy, because Dante Moore, of all the guys in the class, I think he has the livest arm. He throws the ball with the most zip at the very least. I don't know if he could throw it the furthest, but he has the most zip. And you can feel like he has the most upside because he's 20 years old compared to Mendoza, who's going to be 23, I believe, when he comes out. 22 October 1st. So he's going to be 22 when he comes out. And then Ty Simpson will be how old when he gets out? He's going to be 23 because his birthday's in December. So Ty Simpson's going to be 23. You feel similar about both prospects. You're comparing 1 year of play versus 1 year of play. And I think Dante Moore has like 9 starts at UCLA as well. So Dante Moore's technically played more than Ty Simpson. He would easily push Ty Simpson to number 3 in this class, and he would be at number 2 in this class if he comes out. And if he is playing at that level, I think he's going to declare for the draft. There are very few people are this high in the draft order and just choose not to declare, especially when like everybody and their mom's trying to hype up 2027 because there's another Manning in it. But it feels like this is the year for Dante Moore to come out. And that's good news for Browns fans, because if you're a Browns fan and you think the Browns are going to have a top 5 pick and there's going to be 3 quarterbacks, that means that there's going to be a quarterback there for the Browns, right? If there's three guys there, there's going to be a quarterback there for you. Because in the top five, there's only going to be but so many people who are going to have opportunities to get into the top five. And of those teams that have the opportunities, who's going to take a quarterback? I don't think this is a year where they go 1, 2, 3, right? So I think this is a year where you could get one of those quarterbacks without having that pick, or you're going to be at least within range of grabbing one of those quarterbacks. So that's the good news when I look at this. We'll talk more about these quarterbacks individually in just a second, but let's thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. So now that we know that the conversation is going to be about these three and that these three being out in this draft class is very important for the Browns because it guarantees their ability to get them, even if they win a game or two down the stretch, right? If they have a top 5 pick, they'll be able to get one of these guys. Now let's talk about these guys. I get a lot of questions. Hey, Quincy, this quarterback class really better than last year? I know a lot of people have been trashing on it, but I think the reason people have been trashing on the quarterback class is because they haven't really been watching college football over the course of the season, and they're just checking on the names that were rumored to be at the top of this class at the beginning of the year, and they haven't done any updating since. If you watch this series that's been on my channel since the beginning of the year, you would know that this has changed over time, but has really solidified itself within the last 6 weeks of football here in college of who's going to be at the top of the class. We've been talking about Fernando Mendoza for a while. We've been talking about Dante Moore for a while. We've been talking about Ty Simpson for a while. Some people that conversation is new to, but that conversation is not going to be new to NFL front offices and GMs. Every person I talk to that does this draft scouting thing seriously says to me that yes, undoubtedly, this class is much better than 2024's class, or was it 2025? 2025's class, right? The one that had Shador and Cam Ward. They think that these three prospects are better than any of the prospects by far in that draft class. And I would agree with that, right? I wasn't a big fan of Cam Ward coming out. Didn't think he was a first-round pick. Thought Shador was also not really in that first-round conversation, especially with the top 5 pick. That's where I thought it was fair to have those guys. I think these 3 guys have fairly earned a spot in the top 5. Let's talk about Ty Simpson, because I think a lot of people are going to talk themselves out of Ty Simpson this week only because he had a bad game versus Oklahoma. But look at what Ty Simpson has dealt with this year and tell me if one game should really matter as much as people are trying to convince you. First of all, this is a guy who has 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions at Alabama, which is very impressive, right? On one hand, people have told me how Alabama's a dying brand and they stink now, but then tell me that the quarterback having those kind of numbers at Alabama aren't impressive. I think it is impressive because look at who he's had to play throughout that stretch, right? You had to play Georgia, Vanderbilt, who's been good this year, Missouri, who's a tough team on the road, Tennessee, South Carolina, who's one of those sneaky teams that can get you if you're not careful, LSU, Oklahoma. This has been a hell of a stretch here. And I don't know how many quarterbacks can come out that stretch 6-1, 13-2, touchdown interception ratio. I think that's pretty impressive. Ty Simpson, of all the guys in the top 3, he's the guy who, if he loses a game, it bothers me the least because he's the most battle-tested this season of the 3 quarterbacks, right? He has played more ranked opponents than any of the other quarterbacks that we're going to talk about. So he's had more quality opponents. I mean, talk about some impressive road games here at Georgia, at Missouri, at South Carolina, all tough places to play. Even if those teams' records aren't great, they're still talking about, just tough environments, right? Like South Carolina is kind of similar to Penn State, where it's a tough place to play regardless of what the record is. The thing with Ty Simpson is he's a great processor. Pre-snap is really his jam. He's really good at pre-snap processing. The concern with Ty Simpson for me is he's sometimes a bit over-reliant on the tight window stuff, and he throws so many tight window throws, which are impressive, and he does have the arm talent to make these throws, that it concerns me that he might not be able to make his life easier by just not having to resort to it, right? Like get to a different look in the progression where you're not having to throw a tight window ball. Like it shouldn't be this tight all the time. But that being said, what he has showcased this year is he can make throws. He can make all the throws that you want an NFL quarterback to make. And if you're a coach, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, he can make the throws. I could coach him to be smarter with the football, which I think is a fair way to look at it. I'd rather have a guy who you feel like you have to coach into some smarter decisions than have to worry about if a guy can make the throws. Then you have Dante Moore, 21 touchdowns this year, 5 interceptions, a 72.8% completion percentage with 2,190 yards. And he's coming off a game versus Minnesota where he went 27 of 30 with 2 touchdowns, 306 yards, a 90% completion percentage, which is the highest in Oregon history. Now, the Oregon offense does throw a lot of screens, right? And I think there is something to say about that, but also Dante Moore, of all the quarterbacks who've run that offense, especially since Dan Lanning had took over. So we're talking about Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel. He's the guy they let rip it downfield the most. So it's not like he's dinking and dunking, right? If you actually watch him play, he throws the ball downfield quite a bit. He has probably the best arm talent. He is super poised when he's out there, right? The comp I've heard is like bigger, stronger, more powerful Bryce Young. And I know some people are going to just think about Bryce Young's NFL career and be scared off on that. But if you think about Bryce Young, if he were bigger, stronger, and had a better arm, he'd be a pretty damn good quarterback. And that's what they think Dante Moore could be in the NFL. He's real interested because he's the youngest guy, right? He's going to be 20 by the time the draft comes around. So he's going to be by far the youngest guy in this class if he declares. And he could be the number 1 overall pick because of that youth. I think some teams are going to give him a look and maybe even some benefit of the doubt over a more proven prospect like a Mendoza. But, he's somebody who's definitely in that conversation. Super poised, super smart, and a really good arm there for Dante Moore, putting up really good numbers at Oregon. And the thing to remember about all of these guys, right? We're not talking about guys who are having a lot of success in a lower level college conference like a Big 12 or an ACC or an American Conference or whatever the Pac-12 is going to be, or the Mountain West, right? We're talking about guys putting up big boy numbers in big boy conferences against big boy competition, right? Dante Moore playing in the Big Ten, the best conference in college football. Ty Simpson playing in the SEC, the second biggest conference in college football. And I think that those two have a significant gap behind them when it comes to other college conferences, right? Especially we're talking about NFL starting quality talent that comes out of both those conferences. There's a massive gap between the Big 12, especially of the last few years, and the SEC in the Big 10. So that's another thing that's encouraging. Not only are the production numbers from these guys pretty amazing, we're seeing some wild touchdown interception ratios, but they're doing it in power, like the 2 most power conferences in the NCAA. Let's talk about Fernando Mendoza, who is coming off another spectacular performance versus Wisconsin, where he was 22 of 24, not to be outdone by Dante Moore's 90%. Fernando Mendoza decided to go 91.7%, 4 touchdowns, no interception, a insane quarterback rating of 251 in that game. He has mobility as a rusher, right? Like you watch him run and he's not the quickest athlete in the world, but he does have a little bit more long speed than I think people are anticipating. Like I don't think his 3-cone would be great, but I do think his 40 will be fine. 30 touchdowns this year, which by the way is a career high and a record at Indiana. It just broke Curtis Warwick's record at 29. So 30 touchdowns, passing touchdowns. How many rushing touchdowns does he have? What, 2? 2 rushing touchdowns? Let me see. Yeah, he has, my bad, 5 rushing touchdowns this year. So 35 touchdowns total, only 5 interceptions this year. He has some of the most amazing long ball highlights that you will see. I mean, if you want a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield, this is the guy. The comps I've seen range anywhere from like Jared Goff to Matt Ryan. I like the Matt Ryan comp. I think he's a lot like Matt Ryan. And I know some people turn their nose up to Matt Ryan, but like honestly, you got to ask yourself, do they know what they're talking about? They're turning their nose up at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was awesome in the NFL. Like, he was underrated because he played for the Falcons, but Matt Ryan was like a certified hooper in the NFL. Like I have been shocked to find out how much disrespect is going to Matt Ryan's name in his career by some people, because I've only really ran into people who respect Matt Ryan. But we're talking about a guy from 2011 to 2020 consistently threw for 4,000 yards. Like consistently threw for 4,000 yards, was consistently in the high 20s in touchdowns, low 10s in interceptions, somebody who was always in the Pro Bowl conversation, a first team All-Pro MVP in 2016 at age 31, with a great career record and a great track record of success that probably should have been more than what he got, because the Atlanta Falcons are ultimately like just kind of like they have some bad luck at times. But yeah, if Fernando Mendoza ends up being Matt Ryan, I promise you, Browns fans, you will be happy with Matt Ryan. Now, I've seen so many people complain about that comp, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? We would lose our mind for Matt Ryan. And yes, you can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback that's as good as Matt Ryan. He's my guy right now. Like, before we get into the pre-draft stuff, I think Mendoza's probably the number 1 overall pick in this draft. If a team wants to use that pick to get a quarterback, he's definitely the first quarterback taken in my eyes. That prototypical size, good athlete, really good thrower at the football, super accurate downfield, a surgeon in the middle of the field. So this is somebody who could push intermediate, push deep, unlock all the throws for you. Is he the greatest quarterback prospect to ever exist? No. Is he a really strong quarterback prospect? Yes, I think so. Is he a guy that I think can be a Pro Bowler in his career, a multiple-time Pro Bowler? I think so, if he gets put in the right situation, in the right place to develop. And I think that's true for all 3 of these guys, right? I think I could see a world where Dante Moore becomes a really good quarterback. I could see a world where Ty Simpson becomes a really good quarterback. 3 legitimate answers. Don't know which one's going to be correct, but 3 legitimate answers in this draft class. And if the Browns get a top 5 pick and these 3 guys come out, yes, this is finally the opportunity we've been waiting for since 2018 when it comes to resetting the page and moving on to a new era at quarterback. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.